Welcome in. It is day 325, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to go over a game that I've only played it 3 times, but this was full day commitment when I played these 3 times, 12 plus hours each time. The game is called Axis and Allies. Now there are boatloads of different versions of this game. There are different size versions of it, different battles. Sometimes you're using an older game, then you're playing another one that's 10, 20 years later that's been an updated version, but it's still the same game. I have no idea which one I played. This was a friend's game. We played it once a year together, 3 years in a row, and never actually finished. Eventually we just all called it and one side conceded. But it was an experience. It was my first real big game experience. Now, the concept of the game is obviously you're either going to be the Allies, you're dealing with the United States, with England, and you're teaming up and you're up against, there was a third person in there too, as I'm trying to remember now who that was, and you're up against the Axis powers. You're up against Germany and Japan, and, Russia. I believe it was Russia. And so, I played as the US all 3 times. We kind of had the same setup as the first game we played, and every time we played, we kept the same teams and played the same setup. And every time, the Axis powers won. Apparently, me and my friends who teamed up as the 3 were just horrible, horrible allies. The idea is that you start off with a certain section of land, you get so much money, you get certain locations, you get certain troops and ships and planes, and when you move things around, you can get them to the same section, at which point they become a group. And if you go and you attack another location, then you go to war and you start rolling dice. Now, rolling dice is interesting because all that matters is the hits. You as the roller roll, and then your opponent has to decide which of those hits gets hit where. And depending on size of certain ships, it'll be like, oh, well, I've made these big ships because yes, they're a little harder for aim, but they can take a shot. So I turn them on their side. And if they survive the battle, they go back to full strength. Interesting little setup. And as you're going through, you'll basically all take your turns, and then you'll have payout of money. And Germany and Japan at the beginning of the game are making way more. But as the game goes on, because it's a 2-on-3 affair, the idea is that eventually the Allies should start to take some of the land. And that once you've taken 1 or 2 items of money from them and given it to yourselves, it should start to shift. Now, in our games, we never had that happen. Essentially, Germany would play an extremely good game of attack, Japan would play a really good game of defense, and the rest of us would end up watching as they basically would have Germany kind of go over and weaken stuff. Japan would then come in and kind of absorb it. Japan would make more money, and we would get crushed. But the idea being that, you've got to be good about when do you defend borders, when do you advance, how many ships do you make, which troops are you making, are you trying to be on land, on air, on sea. It's a fun game, but why don't we just jump in, let's just talk our 7 categories and see where this game lands for us. When it comes to the art, it's fine. I think that the front of the box is good. If you're a war gamer, this really grabs you. And that's the thing. Not all art is equal. If you're playing this as a regular, a worker placement game, a deck building game, I don't know if this art works. But this is a war game. And as such, the box does its job. It attracts the eyes of people who want to play a war game. And the board does that as well. So even though I'm not a big war gamer, and this would not be a box that would normally grab me, it is one that I think does its job with the art it has. Thumbs up. Components. So obviously you have some dice. You've got cards that are going to be kind of showing a representation of certain types of, are you gathering your troops on this card and this represents a spot on the board? Are you getting money paid out? Are you having cards that represent locations? There's not a lot of these. It's a limited amount of cards, but they're good. They're a little kind of cardboardy almost. Not quite. It's a thin cardboard. Then you have your money. Money's very Monopoly-like, at least in the game I played. So for me, the money was not very good. And then you've got your actual troops, which are all little plastic minis. They're not top grade, but for the time I played this, which you're talking, I played this game now nearly 15, 20 years ago. I think that they're good. So for me, this is one of those that it's a little bit of a mixture, and there's newer versions since then, which I know are better. So I have to say that in general, it has to be a thumbs up. Your price. There's no issue with availability. But the issue is this is not a cheap game. And it's not a short game. So if you're getting this game, you're dropping almost $100 on a game that didn't take you 12 hours. It's a full day commitment. We literally were really into this game and played it once a year for 3 years in a row. That's not enough for me. I would never have bought the game because to me that's a waste of my money and time. So for me, I just think that it's too expensive for what it is. Thumbs down. Difficulty. No kids are playing this. No beginner should be playing this. I think that this, when I came into this game, was right on the cusp of going into the experienced area. I've been playing other games for a couple years. I just think that this game for beginners is too much. And so then you go to your experienced and your experts, but the problem there is, experts, yes, expert wargamers will love it. And if you're not into war games, all other experts will have no interest in this. Experienced gamers will like to try it. But I think that if you're not a big wargamer, most experienced players are going to try it once. And then they're going to go, okay, happy I tried it. I'm done. And most of them aren't even going to be interested in trying it. So for me, I think the difficulty, this is one of those ones that's a bit too difficult. It's going to be too tight niche on who it's really attracting the eyes of, and too hard for the newer or younger gamers. So for me, thumbs down. Replayability. I played it once a year. We were excited to play. This game does not have replayability. Unless you are literally trying to play this once a week or every day for a week and you're making the game be 2-3 hours per session, maybe you can make it last that way. Maybe you could get multiple plays of the entire game in a year because you do it that way. But most people want to sit down, start this game by saying, let's all go out for breakfast, let's get together, let's prep, let's make sure lunch is delivered around 2, and let's play from about 10 in the morning until about 10 at night and try to get this game out of the way. We played this, I think, our first time on a Super Bowl, and we literally got together at like 6 a.m. and we went out for breakfast. We had it already pre-set up. We got back at about 7:30, kicked it off, and when the game started that night, we were still playing, and we played throughout the Super Bowl. We didn't finish the game. The Super Bowl ended. We had to go home, and that's when we called it. So for me, the replayability really isn't there. Thumbs down. Keys to victory. I mean, you obviously have strategy in this game. Defense or offense, really. And how you team with your partners. For me personally, I just think war games are not my style because I don't see there being legitimately multiple keys to victory. You might have one key with a couple routes. Okay, I'm going to fight. Which direction will I fight in? Okay, I'm going to defend. Where should I defend stronger? Those are your two types of keys with multiple routes. You know, oh, I'm defending the U.S. I'm going to defend it with air, with land, or with sea. I'm going to defend it on the northern coast, the southern coast. Where do I think people are coming in? You're doing all these different types of routes to victory via the one key you saw. I don't think there's enough keys to victory in this game to make it exciting. That's why it gets so tedious. The longer you play, you start getting more tired and annoyed. So for me, thumbs down. Is the game unique? Even if you ignore every other war game there is out there, and there are a lot. When I went on my trip to England with my wife, I remember going to a big board game store, and it was literally just top to bottom filled with war games. Now, England is a little bit more known for liking war game style, so that made sense. And I was excited to go see a store of that magnitude. Like, wow, this is a 2-story store just filled to the brim with hundreds of games I've never even heard of because they're more popular there. However, if you ignore all of those, you still have multiple Axis and Allies games. You have multiple versions of the same game that have been released throughout different decades, or games that are smaller or bigger battles within the Axis and Allies area. To me, this game is not unique. It is just one of hundreds of war games. It's got maybe some unique type of corners to it that I'm not recalling right now, I'm sure. But in general, it's the same concept of make troops, spread out troops, fight with troops, roll your dice, try to be the last one standing. It's not unique. Thumbs down. Overall, what do I think? I think that it was a positive experience for me to try this game because by playing it, I found that I wasn't into these big war games. Eventually, I did find my niche, which was I wanted to go and get something that had more my theme and was more of a two-player. And that's where I ended up coming across Battle Lore, second edition. I've reviewed that before with you guys. I bought every expansion for that game. And while I don't get to the table a lot right now, because during this year I've been reviewing so much I haven't been able to replay a lot of games, it is my favorite war game and the only one in my collection. With that Axis and Allies play, though, was where I was able to find out really wasn't into that mechanic. And I thought I would be, because I grew up a fan of Risk. Well, I learned a lot from this play. So even if it doesn't look like a game that may hit for you, don't be afraid to try it, because even if it doesn't hit for you, it can help to give you a little bit more direction on a style of something within the game that you do or don't like that could help you decide on a future game you may want to try. So for me, I'm happy I made the effort. Wish I hadn't tried 3 times, because that second and third game definitely just got worse and worse. But I think it's worthwhile to try. But even if you love the game, really, I don't think you need to own this. Go pay for a place that owns it to sit for a day and play it. And if you really want to play again, you can do that again. You're going to have to do that probably 3 or 4 times at least to get to the point of even getting close to the cost of the game itself. And the likelihood is you're splitting this amongst 5 people, and you're going to end up finding you could probably do that 10, 15 times. Go to a convention and borrow the game when you go to PAX East off the giant borrow area and spend a day at PAX East playing that game and getting some food and buying some stuff around it. I don't think it should be in your collection. Well, it has been day 325, and we've been speaking about the game Axis and Allies. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. And don't forget to check me out on Board Game Arena, where I'll be under the Meeples Champion. You can send me a friend request, a game request. I try to be on a couple times a day. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.